Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Court Martial Podcast. Introducing your host for this evening first. He is the host with the most from the West Coast, the Bay Area Brawler, Skylar Greenberg. And his partner, he has colonized, energized, and revolutionized the podcasting wrestling world today. Your Colonial champion, Sean McAfee. And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 102 of the Court Martial Podcast, the podcast made by Smarks, for Smarks, for the pure enjoyment of Smarks or anybody who would like to listen to the hottest professional wrestling-themed podcast in all of YouTube. I am your Colonial champion, Sean McAfee, ready to participate in the third season of the smarkiest thing we do on this program, ACPW versus NWL fantasy booking. We've got the rosters, we've got the storylines, we've got the matches, and we've got our co-host back. And his name is the man of the hour, the man with the power. He is too god diddly darn sweet to be sour. He is the Bay Area Brawler himself, fresh off of his auctioneering days and back here to bless us with his fantastic drawing capabilities. Skylar Greenberg, welcome back, buddy.
Let's do this!
Yeah! And that's a lot better than a whole bunch of just random screaming.
Yes, that was me turning from Brock Lesnar into a pig.
That's right. And before we cry suey and the hogs have us, how are you doing, my man? It's good to have you back after a week off of scheduling conflicts, but it's nice to have you back seated here across from me as we get ready to do our fetishistic booking.
Well, back ourselves off.
Skylar, I think Laurinaitis might have bit you there in the first half of that sentence. All I heard was jack ourselves off. And so I don't know what contextually you were saying, but I understand.
I'll say it again. Now you're implying that we jack ourselves off.
Well, only on weeks like this. But it wouldn't necessarily be considering masturbation or mental masturbation if it weren't better than what we get from the actual programs.
That is true, and do we have to talk about it?
Well, it wouldn't be right because I will openly admit, while I held my own when it came to the news, there's only one man who is truly worthy of the news. That's why his name's on the intro. And while we have a brief moment before we get started, let's roll that intro and let's talk about them news. Coming straight to you from the Golden Gate Garage, this is the Wrestle News with Skylar Green.
That is right, folks. It's the news of the week with the Bay Area Brawler, Skylar Greenberg, at your service.
Yeah.
And there was a show that just happened in Saudi Arabia called Elimination Chamber.
And the fans were eliminated.
The fans were eliminated. Let's be clear, okay? After the stinky dog shit of the Royal Rumble that we got, none of us were going to watch that show and review it.
No, I couldn't stomach it. There was no way. I even had the day free. Like, I had the time to watch it, and I was just like, nah. I tried. I watched, like, a couple minutes of Lita trying, and that was about it.
Well, yeah. So what we're going to do is that we're just going to go over the match results, and then I'll throw in tidbits of information that happened about each match as we go through it.
All right, let's hear it.
So Rey Mysterio defeated The Miz on the pre-show.
Wow, from facing Edge to facing Rey, I'm enthralled with what The Miz has been doing lately.
Same. Roman Reigns defeating Goldberg by technical submission, a.k.a. he made him pass out.
I heard that match was a 5-finger stinker.
It was also Goldberg's last match on his contract, so fuck him.
Well, that doesn't mean that he's gone. That just means it's his last match on his contract. But here's hoping.
He implied that he is retiring after this, so please, for
Bye.
the love of God.
He's what, in his mid-50s now? Yeah.
He's older than dirt.
Yeah.
And moves about as fast.
And injures about as many people as dirt.
Yeah. Bianca Belair defeats Alexa Bliss, Doudrop, Liv Morgan, Nikki Ash, and Rhea Ripley to become the number 1 contender for the Raw Women's Championship at WrestleMania against Becky Lynch.
What was that, an elimination battle royal?
Elimination Chamber.
Oh! Okay, well, good for her. Good for her.
It's the one matchup on WrestleMania weekend I'm looking forward to.
Well, let's hope they don't and probably will butcher it.
Speaking of butchering, Ronda Rousey and Naomi versus Charlotte Flair and Sonya Deville by submission, with the caveat that Ronda Rousey had to wrestle with one arm tied behind her back.
I did not know this match existed, but I am very glad that I did not know this match existed.
Before we even talk about this match, can we talk about that botch with the contract signing and Ronda Rousey not knowing how to do a table head spots?
Well, she doesn't give a crap about the business, so you're expecting her to know how to do anything right after not doing anything for years? I'm shocked. Anyone who expects Ronda Rousey to put in anything of quality between now and WrestleMania has another thing coming.
Yeah. Drew McIntyre defeating Madcap Moss in a Falls Count Anywhere match. That match, of course, was famous because Drew McIntyre literally Alabama slammed Moss's head into the mat.
Yeah, and it looked like it hurt like hell.
Props to Madcap for finishing that match because oof.
Yeah. Oof, indeed.
Becky Lynch defeating Lita. Again, Lita, retire, please.
I heard word that this was allegedly her last match as well. And I really wish that all of these wrestlers didn't end their career. Well, hopefully they don't end their lives, but end their careers at Saudi Arabia. It's like, are you really going to give all of these retirements to Saudi Arabia? Yes,
because they're the ones that are paying millions and millions of blood money dollars.
I know, but like, I don't know. It don't sit right with me.
And speaking of not sitting right, the Usos versus the Viking Raiders didn't happen because there was a no contest because the Usos attacked the Viking Raiders.
That's probably for the best, honestly.
Although that's going to be the Mania match.
Yeah, well, I got to get up and pee, although I'm going to be spending more time getting up and peeing at WrestleMania than I am watching the show at this rate.
I mean, at this rate, you could probably make food, pee, and do mental masturbation while you're watching most of the show.
Yeah, I'm gonna go play Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel throughout half the show and probably not miss much.
And then the match that everyone talks about: Brock Lesnar defeating Bobby Lashley, AJ Styles, Austin Theory, Riddle, and Seth freaking Rollins. That's actually his official name now, which sucks.
I wish I were surprised.
Seth freaking Rollins in the Elimination Chamber for the WWE Championship. This match is famous because there was a spot where Seth Rollins did a buckle bomb to Austin Theory through Bobby Lashley's pod, and the glass hit Bobby Lashley in the head, except it missed his head and went for his leg. And they said that Bobby got a concussion and was out of the match, right?
Yes.
This is the cover-up for the fact that he was injured in the Royal Rumble match against Brock Lesnar. In particular, his shoulder from taking so many of those German suplexes. I was going to say, the man's 45 and he took bumps like he was 25. I mean, that was a rough match on Bobby, but he sold it like a champ, and probably because part of that was a shoot. So, here's the thing, is that most likely Bobby Lashley will need shoulder surgery and will be missing Mania because of it.
I'm going to say, it's obviously unfortunate, and it sucks to miss out on the Mania payday. However, just from a Mark's perspective, Bobby might have dodged a bullet on this one. Because I kind of suspect, whatever match he was going to be in, it wasn't going to be important in the grand scheme, given the way they're booking the rest of this show. And B, it's he's not getting any younger, and I'd rather have him feel more important again. I know he just had the belt, but even still, I'd like to have him come back and have something more meaningful.
Because he was secondary while having the belt to the Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns storyline.
Right. And if they really are pulling the trigger on this title versus title and they unify these belts, which I'm honestly, at this point, do it. At this point, do it. Because the WWE title obviously does not have the moves that it once had. It doesn't have the stroke it once had. Your eggs are obviously in the Universal title basket. Just unify the belts so Bobby can go after the one world's champion.
Plus, at least from this, they're protecting Bobby, so there's a little bit of hope that they still think they can do something with Bobby.
I give them credit because for every time that we've suspected they were going to just knock Bobby down and treat him like garbage, they've done enough to make sure that he hasn't been buried the way that they bury other people we like.
True. Although, the thing about it is that this is just going to lead to a WrestleMania that you and me are already debating is going to be the last WWE show we review proper.
Until things change.
Until things
change. In a
change.
meaningful way. And,
in a meaningful way.
We'll see what happens with that.
Right. I don't have much to say on Elimination Chamber. Do you have anything else you want to say?
No, not particularly. I do want to give you just a quick moment before I get started with ACPW from just because you weren't here for last week's news. Is there anything about your favorite superstar in AEW, Cody Rhodes, potentially coming back at Mania 38?
It says something when you start a company with a group of friends and you're the first one to leave. Yeah.
And how any feud that you put him in right now in WWE is not going to feel exciting, really.
Because I listened to that show, and for a second I was like, how come you guys didn't mention Randy Orton as his first feud? And you told me, but Skylar, would you be interested for that match? And then I thought about it, I'm like, no.
Not really. Not really. And
it'd be different if he didn't have the fucking neck tattoo.
Yeah. And also just his attitude and the things that he said about pro wrestling. It's like, oh, my guy. I wish he just shut his trap more.
The thing about it is that he knows how to script promos. So he'd be perfect for WWE's format.
Yeah, and he honestly fits WWE's format far better because he's a sports entertainer disguised as a wrestler. That was what his gimmick was in AEW. And now he gets to be a sports entertainer like he's always been. But
it's just one of those things where, again, with Cody, you are the son of the American dream. You have the talent, you have the look, you can at the very least be either a mid-card or main event guy, depending upon how you improve. And he's stagnated. Yeah.
Well, because he refused to change. And when you're stagnant and refuse to change, your returns are always going to be diminished. Look at John Cena. Look at Roman Reigns for so many years. Look at Charlotte Flair right now. It's, and his I'll never turn heel, which we all thought was him turning heel, and then it just wasn't.
Yeah. Another thing, too, is that Big Swole, I know we're going to bring this back into it, she was talking about the lack of diversity in AEW, right? Not necessarily from the wrestling standpoint, although there is some of that too, but more from the managerial standpoint. Because a lot of the EVPs are white guys.
Right.
Besides Tony Khan, the one female minority that was there was hated by everybody because she's a fame-hungry charlatan.
Yeah, because everybody knew what they were, about. And that was the thing. It's like everyone was surprised to see Cody go, kinda, but it's like, all right, we're kind of surprised they're gone, but are we going to be mad that they're gone? Not really.
Cody, we can take or leave. Everyone is happy that Brandy's gone.
Yeah, and will not be joining him on WWE programming.
Go home, stay at home, take care of your baby.
Yes.
Go be a mom because you can't be good at anything.
Go be happy, make yourself...
Okay, that's harsh for me.
Yeah. Well, she could make it like a YouTube cooking show or something like that. 500 recipes to cook with your placenta. She could write a cookbook. There you go. She's She's doing things for herself. She totally could do stuff for that. But let's get away from brandy, okay? Otherwise, we're gonna have to start drinking some brandy in order to palate this show.
But here's my thing, though: is AEW more? Let's be clear, WWE is kind of off for you and me. After this WrestleMania, we may or may not choose to review WWE shows anymore.
Right.
Is AEW any more watchable, or is it just kind of middling?
I would say AEW is at least a little bit more palatable because instead of the chances of one good match being on the show and the rest being garbage, there's a good chance you'll get 3 or 4 matches that are decent, or you get good stories, and then the rest is just filler. And with WWE shows, we tend to watch them live, so we don't skip through a whole lot. But you could skip through a lot of AEW and really just trim down the show based on the 10 or 15 minutes in every match of just filler moves, and still get the point across. It's not perfect by any means. You and I have had very sincere criticisms of AEW that have been warranted criticisms, so I don't want to make it sound like AEW is the land of sunshine and roses. It's just that they happen to polish a few good turds off, and they happen to turn into the ones that Roger squirted out from American Dad. Except they don't make everybody go crazy and try to kill each other.
I suppose. It just helps that there's more talent that is on AEW that I want to see, because WWE has ruined all the talent that I want to see on their show.
Yeah, Tony Khan's 42% success rate is still to be said. There is some success in what Tony Khan is doing. There are some elements that he is connecting the dots with. It's just that he doesn't have the balls for the stuff that is so overtly not connecting the dots to tell them to do better things.
AKA retire Chris Jericho, fire Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks, and just build a show around Keith Lee, Adam Cole, Adam Heyman Page, Bryan Danielson, and CM Punk.
I don't even mind Omega coming back at this point. He's been gone long enough where I'm like, all right, I wouldn't even mind seeing his ridiculousness. I don't even think he's the worst.
Until he becomes the Ultimate Warrior.
Well, of course, that's his favorite wrestler, so of course that's what he's trying to do. If Kenny Omega comes back and there's no Don Callis, I will not be upset.
Well, maybe we can watch EC3 and Braun Strowman's new company.
You know what? I'm not going to say no, because Jonathan Gresham's got a new company. This is kind of what I was saying. I genuinely think that there's people who are going to start changing the way the independent promotions look and start going back to doing this kind of the right way. I think that it's beginning.
Here's the thing, is that Control Your Narrative is a shitty name for a wrestling company.
Is that really the name of the company?
Yes, CYN, Control Your Narrative.
I mean, I'm willing to give it a shot, but I'm just not sure how much Braun Strowman is going to contribute to this show, other than being, the top draw.
Well, he's probably going to be the top draw on the financial backer.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, God, that's a horrifying thought.
Because, he was legitimately, he was the Universal Champion for WWE, so he probably made the most money.
And he's the only one to have won that ghastly green belt for winning the greatest Royal Rumble.
By the way, can we just talk about EC3's promo that he cut?
Just recently?
Here, let me read it to you, okay?
Oh, boy.
We collectively, as wrestlers, can no longer wait. We cannot wait on companies that answer only the shareholders. Companies where billionaires collect talent as toys. Companies that fire their entire roster for the mistakes their front office made. Companies that are complacent in presentation. To create true change, you have to be bold. You have to bet on yourself with CYN. Talent bet on themselves.
Well, none of that was targeted. But
not at all.
But honestly, though, good on him. I've honestly wanted EC3 to feel like a bigger deal, and maybe this is gonna be part of that. Maybe he does have something up his sleeve. I mean, if there's anyone who's got a case for making a promotion like this and doing something on his own, it would be EC3. But
that is true.
But the real X factor here is, what is Braun Strowman going to contribute? Because he has a very narrow perspective of the wrestling business.
Name value, size, financial backing.
Well, we'll see how it goes. It depends on who they get and kind of talent and the agents they got around them, but I'm not going to rule it out. We'll just have to see what happens. The thing
is that professional wrestling has an opportunity, and maybe as more independent promotions are founded, maybe things will happen.
Who knows? Who knows? I think the professional wrestling, it's a very interesting time to be a professional wrestling fan. As WWE becomes abjectly unpalatable.
And AEW continues to play around with its toys.
Yeah. But
here's the thing. Here's the thing about Control Your Narrative Wrestling. Is that inevitably they're going to have new wrestlers. And those wrestlers, when they make their entrances, they're going to need new music and new theme songs. And maybe there's a group of artists that could provide them the music that they need. Isn't that right, Sean?
Well, you might be onto something there, Sky, because it's always difficult to capture a theme that is so catchy, to catch something that is an earworm in the ears of the fans so that people are bobbing their head or reciting the words or it gets stuck in their brain because it's different, it's new, it's innovative. And there is two guys that can bring all of that to you because a new era in entertainment has arrived. AB Production CT is proud to drag you out of the superficial monotony and overproduced, oversimplified modern musical mud pit with not outlaw mud show mud pits, but real modern musical mud pits with two industry-busting artists slowly taking the world by storm. James Storm. Abizzle and I wish James Storm was a part of that. That'd actually be quite fun. And because I drink beer and we could use the money.
What we're gonna do? Drink beer. What we're gonna do? Make money.
That's right.
Beer money.
That's right. And similarly to their meteoric success, and hopefully will not end with a beer bottle over one of our heads the way that Beer Money did, Abizzle and White Knux deliver an avant-garde approach to music that blends elements and instruments of a wide number of musical styles, including hip-hop, R&B, jazz, funk, rock, house, EDM, which is electronic dance music, and so much more. It is high time for the music industry to be shaken to its core. So be a part of the foundation-breaking movement by supporting aspiring artists. And right now, you can catch the latest release, The Wax Apocalypse, a 32-track album that took 2 years to come together. A saga of a lifetime awaits your eager ears. Look for Abizzle, spelled A-B-I-Z-Z-L-E, or White Knux, spelled W-H-I-T-E space K-N-U-X on SoundCloud, Apple Music, Spotify. I'm now told we are on Amazon as well. We also have an iHeartRadio station, which neither of us knew up to this point. So that's a news thing for us. So if you're checking out on iHeartRadio, we're on it. And so much more. The entire AB Production CT discography you can check out on all of these platforms, which includes over 100 songs and projects, including Retreat, Mixed Bag, Verses from a College Grad, Bare Men, Recovering, and many more, all just a short click away. The link is in the description. Come join the entertainment revolution with AB Production CT.
Support small artists.
Would you like to try that again, sir?
Support small artists. I can't do it.
You see, that promotion was just so jaw-dropping and angelic to the ears that has left Skylar dumbfounded.
Cut that out. Cut it out.
Not a chance. It's all, hey, listen, it's your first week back after a week off. It's ring rust, man. It's all good. Too funny. Well, we might as well get right into this because we have 2 shows going on here. The first of our Season 3 fantasy booking. It is episode 19, and I have gotten the long straw, and I am going first here and leading off so that Skylar will get the chance to finish off the day with his show for the NWL. But until then, are you ready for the first episode of the new year?
Let's go.
All right. We have 14 segments on this show. That's including matches and promos and all that jazz. So we are going to start With Matt Striker and Taz, hello, welcome everyone to ACPW. It is going to be a fantastic show for you tonight. We've got a lot of promos, we got a lot of high quality action, the best action here on the East Coast. We are here in Jacksonville, Florida. We are going all the way down south for this show, and we're going to have ourselves a great time. It is very warm, the sun is shining, it feels like it is winter. Because it's 55 degrees out. And a light jacket is all you need. And it's a wonderful time.
And you're giving Tony Khan something to think about.
That's right. Because we sold out our arena. Which arena? We're not telling you, but it's sold out.
Okay, thank you, Paul Heyman.
So, that's right. So we begin with Matt Striker and Taz. They say, well, we're going to go now to JR in the ring, who is there with a talent that we've had for a little while, who's just now getting the chance to speak. JR, hello, welcome here on a wonderful day in ACPW, and I have got with me the artist, Kenny Omega. And Kenny's standing, and he looks all high and proud and mighty, and, you know, doing the Kenny Omega, I'm a superstar, I'm not, but I'm not really. And JR goes, well, Kenny, I'm not going to lie to you, you've had kind of a rough go at here on ACPW so far. You haven't really gotten a whole lot, but we haven't really gotten a chance to know you either. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? And Omega goes, Jim Ross, do you understand the landscape that I am portraying? Do you see the portrait I'm painting here? All I've ever wanted was to be an artist, to perform for my masses and millions of roaring, cheering fans here in Jacksonville. And each and every one of these fans can see that all of the art that I portray, they call it wrestling. I call it magic. I call it my stage, Jim Ross. And everybody acts. But I'm the only true Oscar winner here, because this is my stage, and these are my people. And there's no wrestler who can stop my beloved performance. And of course, the crowd is booing all through this. And
Boo,
and
boo, you suck, you suck, you
and Jericho goes, well, I don't want to sound contradictory, Kenny, but it kind of sounds like you're not really taking this industry very seriously, considering that the top athletes perform here. And Omega goes, athletes? We're all just actors, aren't we? And no sooner he goes like, well, I don't want to say. And Jim Ross goes, well, Kenny, I don't want to be the one to say this, but there's going to be a lot of people taking exception to your words there. And Omega goes, there's nothing that can stop me, because the only person that I'm afraid of is the man I am before I walk out on stage. Because then I truly get to be, and at that moment, out comes Walter to his music. Look who's back.
Yay, yay.
And Walter comes in, and it turns out that the first matchup on this show is Walter versus Kenny Omega.
Walter's gonna kill you.
And
Walter's gonna kill you.
This may not be relevant to the story, but the tights that Kenny Omega is wearing are in fact brown. And so Walter comes in, and Omega, gets all prissy-prancy like he's about to perform his art. Bell rings. Omega comes up, and he just slaps, like, bitch slaps Walter in the face. And
that was not smart.
And Walter just looks down at him. Wham! Big-ass chop. Omega goes down, flips over the ring. Giant, like, bear hug into the corner. Walter just gets him, power bombs him. 1, 2, 3. Welcome back, Walter.
And thank you for destroying Kenny Omega.
And he just walks out. Just know he does. He kind of just stands there, looks down at Kenny, and just leaves.
Thank you. By the way, Kenny, go to South Carolina Championship Wrestling and wrestle against JTG on the pre-show.
Yeah. That's where it's headed.
That's where he belongs.
That's where it's headed. So next up, we have a women's match. It is the newly returned and reformed, because she never debuted, so this technically is her debut. It is Alexa Bliss going one-on-one with Ashley Vox.
So let me give it 1 second, okay? Have you seen what they've been doing on Raw with Alexa Bliss?
I have not. I know that it's basically Dr. Stevie, but she's been doing a whole bunch of spooky garbage.
Therapy sessions.
Yeah. It's been wonderful, and I'm glad I'm not having anything to do with it.
And there's no Dr. Stevie to drug her.
Well, that's good. That's good, I hope.
I was just going back. Those Dr. Stevie segments with Abyss and the whole drugging Abyss. So
cringe.
Yeah.
Quite cringe. That's
Anyways.
peak Russo. That is peak Russo there. But,
peak Russo.
Any case, it's Alexa Bliss versus Ashley Vox. Would you like to take a gander of a guess at how long this match goes?
5 minutes.
I gave it 6. You know, because I want to get Ashley Vox to have a little bit of offense in here. But what happens is Ashley Vox starts making a little bit of a comeback. And then Ashley Vox goes for a big clothesline. Alexa Bliss ducks it, rakes the eyes behind her back. And then instead of a Sister Abigail, I'm just going to give Alexa Bliss like a jumping flatliner. So it actually feels like she's taking as much of her weight as possible, because she's not very large, and using it to bring her opponent down and trying to get as much momentum on it as possible.
Basically a zigzag?
Kind of, but more like a jumping mic check.
Gotcha.
So just so that she can get a little more weight on it, and it feels more like she's doing something. But she has to rake the eyes, so she did cheat to win. And JR still in the ring, and JR goes, well, thank you all for being in the ring with Alexa Bliss. Obviously a victory that some might say you may not have earned, but you won the match nonetheless. And do you have anything to say to the people here? And Alexa Bliss goes, Jim Ross, I have to say how thankful I am to be here. And I'm so thankful that each and every one of you in Jacksonville are at least 6 feet away from me, because COVID or no COVID, you people are vile. And at least you understand that none of you are on my level. So thank you for paying to see me, Alexa Bliss. And I'm here for one reason. Not just to bring class to the ACPW women's division, a step above all of these cretins. I'm here for the ACPW women's title, and I will get it, because as many people have viewed me as small, I'm here to do big things.
Okay. It's been so long since we've seen this Alexa Bliss that I kind of forgot what it's like.
I understand. See, there was a time when Alexa Bliss could cut a really good heel promo.
When she was the mean, angry small girl.
Yeah. And that's what I'm bringing her back to.
That's what you're bringing her back to.
So that's that. And now we go back to Matt Striker and Taz. We have a vignette for our upcoming match. At some point, we are going to hear. We got to run down the rest of the card. We have Titus O'Neil, the world's champion, will be here tonight. He won't be in action, but he will be here. We have a match of Adam Cole versus Andrade. And we also have another women's match, Mickie James versus Marty Bell, coming up, as well as a tag team match featuring the debuting Varsity Blondes.
Alrighty, sounds good.
Now we come back to JR, who is in the ring with the Cult of Cornette.
Oh?
Now, for those of you who perhaps have not been caught up to speed, what's been going on with the entirety of these individuals is that Randy Orton has been consistently losing. He has lost to Brian Cage. He has lost to Titus O'Neil. He has lost to Eli Drake. The FTR, ever since losing the titles, have lost the championships and, of course, faced Beer Money at the most recent Winter Warfare, and that was also a losing effort. And then Jeff Cobb, of course, the year-long reigning, or as far as however long our week spans go, heavyweight champion, was dethroned by Titus O'Neil in the main event. Just to catch everybody up to speed as to what's been happening with them. So JR is in the ring and he goes, well, ladies and gentlemen, I am here in the ring with the Cult of Cornette, of course, FTR, Jeff Cobb, Randy Orton, and Jim Cornette. And Jim, you've had quite a long day. I could tell you could see some bags under your eyes. And you know, before Jim Ross can continue, Cornette has him lean over and goes, let me tell you something, Jim Ross. The Cult of Cornette, I won't lie to you, we've had a kind of a rough few days. We've had to get ourselves together. We needed to pick ourselves back up and remind ourselves who we were. But you see, that's the funny thing. Because I know that all of these people, for as much as their mental capacity can handle in Jacksonville, because for everything they get right, they have a Jacksonville record of things they get wrong. Which means, looks like you're getting the first round pick of stupidity again.
Boo, you suck.
But I'm not here just to desecrate people who are so below desecration that it wouldn't even be an insult. I'm here to inform you and all of the priors and higher-ups in ACPW that I see the game that's been played here. I've been seeing the slow but sure manipulation so that each and every member of the Cult of Cornette has been targeted, has been taken down purely at the hands of upper management. This has been a conspiracy that has been around the Cult of Cornette ever since we came on top. And no matter what, and before Jim can continue, Dax Harwood pushes Jim away.
Oh?
And Dax goes, Jim, I don't mean to get in the way of what you're doing, because obviously you're the best to do it. But I'm going to tell you the honest, real response as to why we are where we are. You see, big man Jeff Cobb here and FTR, we weren't losing matches. He became world's champion. We were the tag champions, the first tag champions. We were riding high. In fact, nobody could match up to the athletic ability of FTR, and nobody could stand against a man like Jeff Cobb. Hell, nobody was even making him fall at a mat. Until he showed up. And he points at Randy Orton. Second he showed up as a bounty hunter, the only people whose heads have been cut off have been ours. He shows up, he gets his ass kicked by Brian Cage. He's no longer even here. And then he tries to take out Titus O'Neil, and Titus whips his sorry ass. Then we lose our titles. Then Jeff Cobb loses his titles, and then he loses to a guy whose only gimmick is saying his name. So let me ask you something, Jim. You want to know why we're struggling? It's because this man ain't cutting it. And until he proves he can cut it, I don't think this group can survive. And now Orton, obviously has been walking, looking at Dax throughout all this. And JR goes, I'm going to see if I can pass Orton. Do you have any response to this? And Jim is kind of just like his jaw's just kind of dropped, right? And Orton grabs the mic. And for those of you who don't like Orton promos, I'm sorry, but it's Orton. And he goes, you act like I have something to prove to you. I have nothing to prove to you. My record speaks for itself. And maybe I haven't been perfect in ACPW. But if I recall, nobody cared about your names until you showed up in ACPW. I show up, I'm instantly cared about. I instantly make waves. if you recall, I'm the one responsible for Jeff Cobb winning that ACPW Heavyweight Championship. And I've sniffed more gold. I've carried more gold around my jock strap than you two ever have and ever will. So don't act like I'm coming across as the bad guy because you can't get it done. I know I'm intimidating a figure, but maybe that's why, because you know you can't compete with a guy like me. And of course, Dax is like, oh really? Really, you want to settle this right here, right now? Because I'll prove to you, I'll put the boots into your ass seconds right here, and you'll be crying for your snake to be put back in the damn jar. And Cornette's like, okay, stop. Both of you stop. That's enough. Both of you. Dax, I understand you're frustrated. Randy, I understand you're frustrated. But this is not the time for this. We are at a crossroads here, and we have to be on the other side of that crossroads if we want what we've gotten back. You think this is my first rodeo? You think I've been in a place where I've lost championships before more times than any of you? And I made more money doing it than any of you. So sit down, shut up, and listen to me, and we'll get through this. And Randy, the main event tonight, you're in it. And you're facing a man who knows more than what it takes to win in this company. I don't like him, but I respect him. Because the main event tonight is Randy Orton and MJF. And I'm not going to say that Dax is wrong. But I do have to say that while I respect you and I've known you for years, numbers matter. And when the numbers are there, I can't do anything to help you unless you help yourself. So tonight, let's see what you got. And if you don't win, then I don't want to be the one who puts the snake behind the barn like the old horse and pulls the trigger. But I will if I must. But until then, everybody focus, concentrate on what matters, and we're getting through this. And now can we please leave the petty high school drama, mean girls garbage to when we're in the locker room? Get back there. And now Orton and Dax and they're starting to leave, and I'm like, and JR's like, well, I mean, I don't really have much else to say. This was clearly a little bit more of a dissension. And Cornette grabs the mic. Oh, and that's another thing. You mentioned Titus O'Neil, because I have one more complaint to make. And because I'm long-winded, and because Jacksonville's attention span is so bad, they probably think I'm talking for the first time. Titus O'Neil?
You suck.
Titus O'Neil? I said many times before that you've been a yellow belly. And now that you've won the title because you screwed Jeff Cobb out of that belt, I bet you don't have the balls. I bet you don't have the guts to be a fighting champion. I bet you won't be what Jeff Cobb is because Jeff Cobb has a rematch. And he wants that rematch next week. So if you have any balls, if you have any guts, and if you have any feathers still being plucked from your back, maybe you'll accept. Unless, of course, you've got a coward as a world's champion, Arn Anderson.
A lot to unpack there. A lot to unpack. The first things first, there is dissension in that group, and it will be interesting to see what happens in that main event. But clearly they're not done with Titus O'Neil, that's for sure. Well,
obviously the matchup as far as we don't have necessarily rematch clauses, but we do try to give former champions a rematch as a chance to get it back, and we'll have to see if Titus O'Neil, he is in the building tonight. So will he have a response to the challenge of Jim Cornette? We will find out a little bit later.
Oh, we will.
Moving right along, we have a tag match. It is the Varsity Blondes going up against Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins.
Shitty and poopy.
Can you hazard a guess how long this match goes?
Let's go 4 minutes.
Wow, I actually gave it 5. And
it's very clear they're not going to go that long.
Yeah. Now, because Pillman Jr.'s finish is a Fisherman Buster, and that's what Bobby Fish has. I have changed it to a Snap Northern Lights Plex with a bridge for a pin. So it's like a perfect Plex, but it's without the leg hook. It's like it's just a big, but it's so fast. It's the speed of Pillman Jr. that does it. So it's not a big heavy move, but it's a nice Plex. It fits his build, and with the bridge, and I hanker back to the days when you can pin somebody with a bridging suplex.
Fair enough.
And because we haven't really established them yet, because it's their debut as well. So we've got a lot of new names on this show.
But it's a freebie. That's
right. And because Ford and Dawkins are always a freebie. Up next, the pot shots, they never stop, baby. We have another women's match. Because I like having more than one, so it doesn't feel like it's a pity match.
Hey, 2 to 3 women's matches is the good amount for a quality division.
Yeah, and while I'm not giving them all the time in the world, and I'm not giving them main events, I'm still trying to keep them in and involved.
Because they're not there yet.
Right, because at this point, less is more, but you're still getting what you need.
But that's the thing about women's wrestling, is that you're not at the point yet where you can have a main event shows. I was able to do it because I started earlier than you. You're in the infancy of your division still.
Right. And I'm going to be quite frank, I don't think you're going to like the way I take the women's division. But that's okay. Because it's meant to be that way. We'll see. But the matchup... I mean,
the thing is that I'm going to book the women's division better than you will, so...
That's... Well...
Because I have more talent than you, and I'm a better creative genius.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah. He says, after I take his main event and take his main eventer and create an incredible finish to a collaborative story...
Whoa, hey.
But this isn't about rivalry, baby. This is about successful collaboration that makes everybody lots of money.
And then there will be the rivalry later.
Yeah, that's right. After WWE and AEW have bought up all our talent. Yep. And our matchup here, the next matchup, is Mickie James versus the debuting Marty Bell.
Do you give Mickie James Hardcore Country?
Of course.
Okay, just checking.
Of course. This match, how long do you think this match goes?
Let's go 7 minutes.
You are correct, sir. That is, in fact, how many minutes I gave it.
Hey!
And the reason is I don't want this to be just a full-blown squash, because I do have plans for Marty Bell. So I do think that I want her to get some offense in, but I also want her in with an experienced veteran like Mickie James to help her along the way. But Mickie James is going to hit the implant DDT and get the win.
Okay, fair enough.
And then JR comes into the ring and goes, well, Mickie, you've had a long and storied career, and we're very happy to have you here in ACPW, and of course a good win against Marty Bell. What's next for you? And Mickie James says, well, I'm not going to lie, Jim. I don't have that much time left in my career. I've had a long career. I've had a very successful career, and I feel better than I ever have. And I'm going to keep going for as long as I can, but I know that when you reach an age like I have, you don't got much time to make your moves. So you got to move fast, and you got to move quick, and you got to make your statement. And Camille, I know that you're a brand new up-and-comer, fresh off the block, wanting to make a statement, clearly have as the ACPW Women's Champion. But I also know that experience is everything. And I'm feeling better than I ever have, and you might be the Amazoness, but you ain't never been to hardcore country. And until you've been to hardcore country, I don't take you seriously. So I'm challenging you, Camille, to a match. And I don't even need it to be a women's title match. I'll wrestle you in a non-title match. And when I win it, and I get my number one contendership for your championship, and I've gotten in your head, the only thing you're going to be singing is the blues, baby.
I will give this to you because it's Mickie James, but that is a couple of puns in there that are just ugh.
Oh, of course. I'm all about them cringe. You know me. You know me at this point.
I do. But, like, legitimately, it's a good match for Camille because you get a veteran in the ring with her. You get someone who has experience that can carry Camille to a longer match. And, again, this is how you do it. You take a veteran who you can trust to carry the greener talent to better matches.
Right.
I don't know who I'm talking about, AEW, Jade Cargill.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, that's the Rookie of the Year, Jade Cargill, to you.
Rookie of what?
Well, because Mr. Uncle Dave released all of his awards that he gave all AEW. And
if we're talking about Rookie of the Year, it should have been Bron Breakker.
Yeah, I agree. But this is Uncle Dave, and he is the AEW sniffer of jocks. And
Excalibur won Commentator of the Year.
Yep, he sure did.
For the second time in a row.
Yeah. I won, and
Tony
Tony...
should have been Pat McAfee.
Yep. Tony Khan won Booker of the Year. Because reasons. Anyway, we now move on as that gets done, and we are now in the back, finally, with Tony Schiavone, who is here in the back, says, "Hello, I am Tony Schiavone." Of course, the backstage announcer for ACPW, and I'm joined here by the ACPW Tag Team Champions, Wrestling's Finest, Bobby Fish, Roderick Strong, and Kyle O'Reilly. Now remember, I have said, and I'm still adhering to the fact that Roderick Strong does not actually have the belt. We are not doing Freebird rule.
Not yet, anyways.
Not yet, anyways. So Tony says, Wrestling's Finest, you have a huge piece of a goal. We're in Olympic season, and it seems you've won the gold medal as you have beaten the Hardys and ended the careers of the Hardys and retained your ACPW Tag Team Championships. How does it feel? And O'Reilly says, I gotta tell you, we have been partying our asses off ever since winning these tag belts and ever since we proved that the Hardys just couldn't keep up. They couldn't handle the pressure of being legends in the face of wrestling's finest, because they used to be able to go, but they can go no longer. But we're just getting started. And Bobby Fish now comes over and goes, it's funny how the entirety of the tag team division in ACPW has been looking up at us since we got here, because we decided to call ourselves wrestling's finest. You know, you don't name yourself that without putting pressure on yourself, but we've backed it up time and again. And all of these veterans who call themselves the greatest tag team of their era and their generation, all they do is embarrass themselves when they decide to step into the ring with us. And the fact of the matter is, it doesn't matter who's out there, because wrestling's finest are just that. And no one can compete with wrestling's finest. And in that moment, you hear a giant burp from outside. And you hear, hold on up. And of course, in walks James Storm and Bobby Roode. Now, I heard you called us the greatest of our generation. And they all kind of look at each other and go, no, we didn't. Well, one of you must have, because it sure ain't y'all, and this is our generation. And Bobby Roode goes, we've seen a lot of people like you come and go, and what do you think you guys are? Killers of legends because you took down aging Hardys? Those guys did more for this business than you ever will, because all you've ever done is take from this business. And when have you given anything back? When the Hardys left everything out on the line. But speaking of things on the line, it so happens that we're next in line for those ACPW Tag Team Championship belts. Because we've accumulated wins, because all we've done is earn money and drink beer, and that's all we've ever done, all we ever will do, and we don't really give a damn whether you want to wrestle, because we'll fight your asses and beat you down and take your names alongside it. So if you have any balls, you have any guts, you have any chutzpah, that one's for you.
Thank you.
Then you will make sure that you check your watches. Because in May, and I know we're a little ways away, but we've got May Melee. And we've got the match signed, we've got the match agreed, and we will see you for those belts then. But, you know, hearing you guys talk and run your mouth, and this is James Storm talking, by the way, you know, I don't feel like waiting. And he starts going up and you know, and Roderick Strong actually steps in front of, because he was going to go to Kyle O'Reilly. Roderick Strong steps up to James Storm and kind of like peacocks out at him a little bit. And he still goes, oh, I know you. I know you. You're the tough boy, right? The strong as a bull tough boy. Roderick Strong. That's right. Well, listen up, Hamburglar. You will be grimacing when I spit this beer in your face and send you on a hurricane path out of Jacksonville. Because the eye of the storm's coming down. The titles are coming to us. And then we're celebrating with two things. Beer, money. And so Tony Schiavone goes, well, folks, we're not gonna do this now. And you kind of get, I don't want to say like Jerry Springer wise, but we start to actually get security as things start getting like a little bit closer, like they're about to fight. Because of course, we're not trying to have backstage brawls in the middle of interview segments. Not really, not. So there's actually like security comes and like pushed it aside. It goes, well, this is clearly not going to be over here. But the battle lines have been drawn between Beer Money and Wrestling's Finest, and we'll get back to you. We'll be back right after this. Your thoughts?
See, this is what I'm talking about with the cringe in you. And I know you want to cut certain promos.
You're getting sick of my shtick. I understand.
But again, this is a matchup that would be an interesting one to watch. And it is an official pay-per-view match, right?
Yes. Yes. So we've got time to let this steamroll and broil a little bit.
So we have officially Wrestling's Finest versus Beer Money, which, oh my goodness, is that a tag team dream match.
Yeah.
But of course, we may end up having something with Roddy because Roddy has a little bit of an issue with James Storm, and that would be an interesting matchup, don't you think?
Well, I think it'd be an interesting one-on-one. We'll have to see what happens in the next couple of weeks. But there's definitely, you know, Beer Money, they've always been kind of cringy with their promos and a little gimmicky with their promos. I always thought, but it didn't matter because that kind of was part of their charm.
Yeah, in a way.
It's just that I have a very specific kind of cadence that after 3 seasons I could see could be a little grating.
Well, it's not necessarily that. It's just you're trying to imitate certain people, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
It's true. But you, at least in my defense, I am committed to the bit regardless.
You are committed to the bit, which is more than what most people would do.
That's right. Because I'm riding with this ship, sink or swim.
Sink or swim.
That's right. So, we come back from the break and we have a pre-tape of Arn Anderson. And Arn says, well, ladies and gentlemen, we've already seen quite a lot of intense action. We've seen battle lines being drawn. We've seen a lot coming up, and there's more coming up. Because as with ACPW, we are an ever-evolving, ever-expanding company, and we have got a lot of new, groundbreaking talent that have been signed to ACPW. So stay tuned in the next couple of weeks. We've got a lot of debuts planned, and maybe even some unplanned. You're just going to have to tune in to watch. But ACPW, there is no better time to get on board. So just a little pre-tape, just kind of hyping up the show. Then Matt Striker and Taz go and say, well, we've got Tony Schiavone in the back with Adam Cole with Britt Baker.
Oh, God, no.
And Tony Schiavone goes, hello, I am Tony Schiavone, the ring announcer, the backstage announcer for ACPW, and I am here with Adam Cole and Dr. Britt Baker. And Adam, you get set here to take on Andrade. And after Winter Warfare, where Dr. Britt Baker had defeated Zelina, what is your mindset going into this match against Andrade? And Adam Cole says, I've only got one thing on my mind, and that's victory. And I've only had one thing on my mind, and that's victory, alongside my lovely lady, Dr. Britt Baker. And Dr. Britt's kind of like, she kind of smiles like, you know, not even really that excited about it. He says, and I'm going to win this match and dedicate this win to my girl, because she took care of her half of this business, and now I'm set up to take care of mine. And I can't wait for her to be back here as I take care of everything and finish off Andrade once and for all. And Britt Baker's like, whoa. You're not going out there alone. What are you talking about? And Adam goes, listen, baby. I love you. And you know I love you. And you know I love spending all this time with you. But, you know, Andrade, this and Zelina, you know what they're capable of. And I don't want you to get hurt. And Britt's like, I beat Zelina, clearly beat Zelina at Winter Warfare. Like, what are you worried about? He's like, baby, listen, trust me on this. I don't want to see you hurt. I don't want to see you in pain. I've already had that happen too many times with you. I need you to stay here and let me handle it. And Britt's like, okay, fine, Adam, fine. You want to go and handle it? Go ahead and handle it. Let's see how you do. And he's like, I'll do it for you, sweet pea. All right, let's get it. And Tony Schiavone's like, well, Adam Cole heads to the ring. It's time for the next match. Let's take it back to Matt Striker and Taz.
I will do it for you, sweet pea. God damn it, Adam Cole. And the worst part is that Adam Cole would say this in real life.
Yeah.
He is that much of a nerd that he would say that.
Yeah. So we get back to Matt Striker and Taz, and we are now have the match. It is Adam Cole versus Andrade Cien Almas with Zelina Vega.
Now, here's the thing: is it smart for Adam Cole to leave behind Britt Baker, because you know that Zelina's going to be with Andrade?
Well, that's was Britt Baker's point. Was like, what are you doing, bud? And he's like, nah, I got this.
Well, let's see what happens.
So this match, with a 10-minute time limit, goes 9 minutes. And here's the finish. Adam Cole makes a comeback. He's looking to get the last shot. Zelina was going to try to hold the leg, but because she had done that before with Adam Cole, Cole saw her do it and just like kind of boots her leg and kind of just shoves her down. But that minor distraction is enough for Andrade to try to hit the hammerlock DDT, but Adam Cole counters it into a trip, hits the last shot, and when he goes to roll Andrade, get the cover, where he is positioned in the ring is where his face is like near the ropes. Andrade's shoulders are down. The referee is behind Adam Cole looking at the shoulders, doesn't see Zelina at 2, get the mace that she had in her chest from back when I used that before, and spray Adam Cole with it, which is enough for him to recoil and go back and be blinded. And Andrade, then there's, you know, obviously a minute for Cole to sell and for Andrade to get up. Andrade gets up, Cole can't see. Andrade hits the hammerlock DDT, 1, 2, 3.
You fell for it. You fell for it, Adam Cole.
And you have to wonder, if Britt was out there, would Zelina have been able to do that?
Obviously not.
So, Adam Cole, you done fucked up.
Clearly. I'm sure Britt Baker is going to let him have it.
Well, you can tell that Britt Baker wasn't necessarily thrilled at Adam Cole's attitude, both at Winter Warfare and prior to this matchup.
Clearly.
So, Adam Cuck's reign lives on.
Oh, no, don't say that.
Yeah, well, what is he? Exactly.
Baby.
Exactly. Well, let's move on, shall we? Because Titus, then we have Matt Striker and Taz, and then we go back into the ring for JR, who is in the ring with Titus O'Neil, the world's champion. And Jim says, ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor And I'm very thankful I can say that now about our world's champion. It is my honor to introduce to you the ACPW heavyweight champion of the world, Titus O'Neil. And JR says, Titus, first of all, I have seen your entire career here in ACPW from the start, and let me first say to you a hearty congratulations on winning the ACPW Heavyweight Championship. How does it feel? And Titus says, Jacksonville, ooh, ooh, ooh.
Ooh, ooh, ooh.
It is so satisfying to see the hard work that we have put in finally pay off in this ACPW Heavyweight Champion. It feels good, Jacksonville. We earned it. Now let me make something clear. You right. You damn right. Now let me make something clear, JR. There have been only 3 ACPW heavyweight champions in the history of this fine company, and I promise you and all of these people here in Jacksonville and throughout the entirety of ACPW that I am not going to win the title and change who I am. I'm not going to suddenly be the man whose fame got the better of him. I'm here for these people, with these people, defending this belt as a fighting champion for these people, and that is never gonna change.
Ooh, ooh, ooh.
And I make a promise to you right now, right here. I've heard the words that Jim Cornette's been saying, and for the first time, Jim, I think he's scared. Because he's losing power and he knows it. Because I said to Jim Cornette that I was taking everything, and he thinks that he can still grasp at straws and get his rematch and get his title back. Well, I'll be proud to take that opportunity away from Jim Cornette. You want that match next week, Jeff Cobb? You got it. I'll defend my world title on regular TV, and you'll see that I'm not messing around, never have been, never will, because the champ will still be here worldwide. Ooh, ooh, ooh.
Ooh, ooh, ooh.
And Jared goes, well, there you have it. World's champion Titus O'Neil accepting the challenge of Jim Cornette. We are going to get a world's title match next week. Can you believe it, Matt? Let's get back to you.
Again, Titus O'Neil could have been not even necessarily a world champion, but mean more than what he is now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's genuinely, I wish that Vince had seen in him what I saw in him back in 2014. You know, and I wish that he had been able to see what kind of marketability Titus really had. And, you know, I think that especially for the time, this is the kind of guy that people want to get behind.
Exactly. Now, here's the thing. When you were booking this show, you plan to have it in Florida because Titus is from Florida, right?
Yes. Even though it wasn't his hometown, because I didn't want it to be as like... I didn't necessarily always want to go to a hometown of a wrestler, you know what I mean?
Right, but I'm sure Tampa Bay is not that far from Jacksonville. He does live in Tampa, by the way.
It's like, yeah, I was actually kind of hoping I'd see him when I was down there. And, you know, low-key holding out hope, but unfortunately he was not there. And, no,
he's a very busy man.
No, of course. To do. Of course. It's about a 3-hour drive from Jacksonville to Tampa, and presumably we'd be running kind of a Florida circuit, you know, of house shows going forward, so, you know. Anyway.
You would get the chance to see him. You would get the chance to see him if you were down there.
That's right. And at this point, you'd want to see him. Now.
Yeah, because he is watchable, damn it.
Yeah, he sure is. He sure is. And now we move on to our main event of the evening. MJF versus Randy Orton. With Jim Cornette, which is the first time that Orton has actually had Jim Cornette in his corner.
Interesting.
How long do you think this match goes?
This is the main event, and it's Randy and MJF, so let's say 15 minutes.
Close. I'm giving them a little bit more time. I'm giving them 18. Because these guys would put on a great 18-minute match.
I'm sure they would. It would be a great TV main event.
Yes.
Maybe even a pay-per-view event.
It could be. It could be. Now, here's the finish. MJF has made the comeback. He tries for the draping pile driver. I'm going to just dump the BTY part of that. I'm just going to call it a draping pile driver. Not every move deserves a name. Sometimes just what it is what it is. And MJF's looks more devastating than everybody. And it's also worth noting that throughout the entirety of the time MJF has been in ACPW, nobody has kicked out of that pile driver. If he's lost, it's because he hasn't used it.
Alrighty.
So, because I'm trying to protect finishers here in ACPW, it's because these kinds of things matter. So, the finish is MJF tries for the draping pile driver. As he's got Randy Orton, Corny gets up on the apron and holds Orton's legs. MJF snatches Corny by the hair, and Orton kind of skirts out of in between MJF's legs, turns him around, RKO. But because they're so close to the ropes, MJF rolls out of the ring. Orton then rolls out of the ring himself, and then looks at MJF, who is on his hands and knees. And he starts to get that look in the eye, but Corny is talking to Randy Orton going, dude, let me distract the ref. I'll hand you the racket and we'll start. So Corny's trying to like direct traffic, and Orton's like just focused on MJF until Corny's like, Randy, damn it, Randy, listen to me. And turns Orton's head. And Orton like kind of backs up a little bit, and he nods his head, turns his head back, but by the time he's turned his head back, MJF is there and double clotheslines both of them. Then MJF gets Orton on the apron, MJF gets into the ring, draping pile driver, 1, 2, 3.
Randy Orton has lost again, and this time because of Jim Cornette, partially.
Yes. So, and MJF is obviously celebrating as Orton and Jim retreat, and Jim's just like yelling at Orton, and Orton's just like visibly frustrated. You know, there's tension there as MJF is just celebrating, vibrantly celebrating, and so then we get back. So that's the end of the main event, but the show's not over.
Okay.
Then Matt Striker and Taz come in and say, well, thank you very much for another great episode. Of course, we saw that main event, and we will see you next time on ACPW. And they go to close, and you can kind of see them take the mics off, and then you hear in the background, da 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 da, and everybody turned. Now the ring is empty, mind you. The ring, so like MJF is cleared out, Orton's cleared out, Cornette's gone because the show is supposed to be over, right? And then Stryker puts his headset back on and says, "Are we still live? Are we still? Well, we heard the music back. Let's take you to the ring, I guess." And out comes Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman.
Okay.
And JR is visibly confused and gets into the ring tentatively, and Paul Heyman just takes the mic and just Brock Lesnar kind of just stares down JR, and JR just kind of leaves the ring because this is Paul Heyman, and as much as I have that rule about having the announcers being the only ones to hold the mic, Paul Heyman is going to have to take the mic from JR.
Also, Brock Lesnar scaring away Jim Ross is a smart thing because Jim Ross does not want to be F5.
Yeah, oh hell no. Oh hell no. And so the ring is cleared, and everyone's very confused. It's like this is hate to break the schedule, folks. And Paul Heyman is in the ring, goes, "Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paul Heyman, and my client, Brock Lesnar, and I have just returned from the office of Arn Anderson. We had a nice visit with Arn. In fact, we just left his office to make sure that Brock knew that he knew that we were taking this time."
Oh?
Which infers, just to kind of cut this off, infers that they just bullied Arn Anderson in the back to get some promo time.
Okay, then.
And I wanted to make sure that all of these people in Jacksonville, the entire locker room of ACPW understand the gravity of my client's appearance here in ACPW. The first champion in this company was beaten and sent packing by the only alpha male of ACPW, Brock Lesnar. And it is only a matter of not years, not months, but days before the alpha male, the beast, becomes the reigning, defending ACPW heavyweight champion. And that's not a prediction. That's a And Paul Heyman freezes. Because as he's saying this reigning and defending and all of that, the crowd, you could see all of their heads have turned and are cheering like crazy. And they're like, what's going on? Paul Heyman has turned his head and is now looking. You can't see from the original shot, but then the camera pans to the left, and seated cross-legged in the middle of the ramp is CM Punk. And Paul Heyman jaw drops like he's seen a ghost. And Brock Lesnar, he's not necessarily intimidated, but he just kind of like tilts his head like he's just like, what is this? I wasn't prepared for this. And the crowd is going apeshit, naturally. And Punk just looks down, doesn't have a microphone or anything, just waves his hands, motions for the go to sleep, and it fades to black.
Well, as a certain straight edge person would say, it's clobbering time. Ooh. We're going with a big time matchup for CM Punk's debut.
Yeah, it's I wanted to make him feel important right away. What better a person to do that with than Brock Lesnar?
And Paul Heyman, and the history between those three individuals.
Yeah. And this way, and if I wanted it to be because obviously people would know who CM Punk is. I didn't want him to have a match first. I didn't want him to say anything even, because his appearance alone would be enough to get people to want to know what he's doing next week.
Okay.
So,
but again, it builds interest. We have a lot of things that you are building up to and introducing in season 3's debut.
Yes. So this was while it wasn't necessarily the most exciting show, it definitely was the launching point to a lot of things I'm trying to do.
That's all you need to do sometimes.
That's right. And now that I have laid down my groundwork, it's time to hear about the groundwork on the West Coast. Skylar, as I say every time, and it's become one of my favorite parts of these ACPW and NWL is this transition, the floor is yours.
And the floor will be mine as we go to Los Angeles for NWL's LA Melee.
All right, I like it. I like the name.
Thank you. Unfortunately, I couldn't find a Valentine's Day inspired thing, so I just went with LA Melee.
That works.
Anyways, so we are ready to begin, but before we do, let us go over the rankings, because as we always preface this with NWL, we have a ranking system. This determines where everybody is in the pecking order of the National Wrestling League. And there's been a little bit of change in those rankings. So we have Roman Reigns, our champion. He will be facing off against our number 1 contender, Keith Lee. Kevin Owens, number 2. AJ Styles, number 3. Shinsuke Nakamura, the international champion, number 4. Seth Rollins, number 5. Sami Zayn, number 6. Jacob Fatu, number 7. Dominik Guerrero, number 8. Will Hobbs, number 9. And a vacancy at 10.
Oh, that pesky vacant. Always finding its way into the rankings.
Always finding his way into the rankings. And now, we are going to open the show, well, the pre-show anyways, with Kurt Angle, our general manager, in his finest suits.
Our fearless leader.
our fearless leader. And Kurt Angle welcomes everybody to NWL Season 3, and he goes over the match card. The match card includes our main event, Roman Reigns versus Keith Lee for the NWL World Heavyweight Championship. We will have Becky Lynch defending the NWL Women's Championship against Piper Niven. We will have a number 1 contendership match between Kevin Owens and AJ Styles, an international championship match with Shinsuke Nakamura and Jacob Fatu, a triple threat tag team matchup, the Usos versus the New Day versus The Bar, and so much more.
I'm definitely intrigued. This should be a fun show.
And all this is ready to go, and Kurt Angle's excited. And here comes Big Swole.
Oh, yeah.
And Big Swole, she comes down to the ring, and she has a bunch of papers.
Oh, no.
And she goes into the ring, and she talks to Kurt Angle. Hello, Kurt. I just wanted to bring all this to you because I wanted to thank you first for giving me a contract to NWL. But I noticed that your roster doesn't have enough black matches in featuring black wrestlers. And I have a petition from several thousand people, and she lists up the papers showing the different signatures that she has, of people who want to see black wrestlers on TV. And you need to do this because you need more diversity on your roster. And of course, Kurt Angle, he's speechless. His mouth is drawn down. And he grabs the papers and he's looking at him. He's like, Big Swole, this is just you writing your signature and then using a copy machine to copy your signature over these pages.
Yeah?
And Big Swole's like, listen. The people want to see more black wrestlers, and you need to put more black wrestlers on your TV, like me. And Kurt Angle's like, okay, fine, listen, I'll give you a match next month, okay? Will that make you happy? And she's like, yeah, that will make me happy. So Kurt Angle shuffles away while Big Swole is fumbling around with the papers.
Jeez. I don't know what to say. I don't have the words to describe the emotions at this moment.
Do you like the gimmick?
This is... I'd say that this was what I expected, but you definitely took it in a direction that... I don't have the words. You have definitely gone to a place with Big Swole that is big and swole.
I know.
I'm sorry I don't have more feedback to that. I don't know what to say.
Let me just say right now, it gets worse.
Oh, I'm sure it does. At least Big Swole doesn't like the kids. Let's hope.
Okay. So we're going to move to preliminary show matchup. We have one on this show. It is Dana Brooke and Mandy Rose versus Sasha Banks and Bayley.
Go Dana?
Josh again would not agree with you.
Go Mandy Rose? I don't think
Bayley
Josh again would agree with me on that one either.
Bayley wins 5 minutes. Let's move on.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Big elbow or elsewise?
Bayley the belly.
Nice.
By the way, I do want to be specific with the Horsewomen. As you remember the gimmick, all 4 of them are NWL Women's Champion at the same time because of a stupid stipulation that happened at Wrestle Festival.
Right.
And stupid logic. And of course, they had the Freebird rule.
Right. I remember. It was good logic because it came from your brain.
Thank you.
See, I'm not going to throw barbs the way you threw barbs in the middle of my show. That means I'm better, right? Huh?
Quiet.
Continue.
All right. So next, we're going to start the main show now.
Let's do it.
The main show is going to start with a tag team match, another tag team match. We have the Fashion Police, Tyler Breeze and Fandango, against a debuting tag team. They are Next Generation. By the way, Next is spelled NXT. Nudge, nudge. Dominik Guerrero and Rex Steiner.
What?
Yes, Dominik Guerrero and Rex Steiner.
What?
So, this is going to be an 8-minute match. The finish for this match is that Rex Steiner is in his corner, and he's going for a 3-down position, like he's going to be a football player.
Yeah.
And he does a quick blind tag to Dominik Guerrero. He does a spear to Fandango. Dominik Guerrero gets to the top rope and does a frog splash from the top rope for the cover 1, 2, 3.
Okay. I'm still confused at this pairing, but I'm willing to give it the benefit of the doubt.
Well, let's find out a little bit more, because we have Renee Young in the ring with our next generation.
All right.
And Dominik Guerrero says, you see that? You see that? That is the power, the speed of Rex Steiner, and the speed and the tenacity of Dominik Guerrero. We are the next generation. Isn't that right, Rex? And then it's Rex's turn. That's right. Listen here. We are the future of wrestling. The two of us, 2 second-generation wrestlers who will be making our mark on this company. We're going to take the tag team titles. And when we take those titles, you have nothing but to have to acknowledge that the next generation is here and will be the future and will take all of the money and power that those titles bring.
You have to ask yourself, what kind of a chance does the rest of the tag team division in NWL have against these 2 individuals?
No, we're not doing that promo. We are not doing that promo.
I know, it would be easy. It'd be way too cheap, it'd be way too easy, but saying that as a joke is still game.
Here's the thing. I am saving that promo for later.
Cool. Can't wait. Cannot wait.
So what do you think of my idea?
I like the idea because it allows Dominik to be a little more weaselly behind the meat. You know, I don't necessarily akin it to Nash and Michaels, but it's because obviously Mr. Steiner is far, far superior in wrestling ability than Kevin Nash. No disrespect to Kevin Nash because he was good at other things. But this is a pairing that I think will help develop both as talent as their greenness starts to dissipate, and I think they can learn better together than they would without each other. So I like the idea, and definitely from the second generational talent, I think it's interesting having Rex be a heel at first, but that could easily turn to a Dominik being too hard on him, and then you have that match, and then Rex becomes the phenomenon we know he's going to be.
Because the thing about it is that I like Dominik, I like Bron or Rex, but the thing about it is that they're both 24. I don't need to rush them in the single scene. Very true. I think it's naturally, because they're both 24, they're both second generation, that connection exists, and they both have contrasting styles. Rex would bring the power, Dominik would bring the speed.
Right.
Also, yes, I did take the NXT thing, and
Yeah, I mean, so long as it's one word, you can't sue for it, WWE. Get at him.
Get at him. But yeah, I like the idea of this tag team.
I do too. So we'll see where it goes.
We shall see where it goes. Now we're going to go backstage. And backstage is Tommaso Ciampa, and he's preparing for his wrestling match that's coming up next. Until he's introduced, or this man introduces himself, it is Johnny Gargano.
Alrighty.
So Johnny walks up to Tommaso and says, listen, Tom. I know we haven't had our same eye-to-eye that we did in ACPW, but this is NWL. It's a fresh start. You and me, we can do great things together. I know we had our issues, but you have to remember our successes too, how great of a tag team we were, and how great as individuals. We don't even have to be a tag team, but I just want to be friends again. Come on, put her there. He puts his hand out. Tommaso looks at Johnny's hand, and he goes out to reach for the hand, but he just grabs Johnny's hand and puts it back at his side, and then he reaches back. Listen, Johnny, I'm doing my own thing here, and you do your thing, and maybe it will work, but maybe it won't. But I remember the coward that you were in ACPW. I remember the failure that you were. And a new company may mean a fresh start for you and a fresh start for me, but that doesn't mean that you and me have a fresh start. Capiche? Now I got a match to win tonight. You got me? And I don't want to see you out there at all.
I appreciate the fact that you're not just like blanket wiping history. And because it is still like relatively recent that this whole thing happened with Johnny walking out and then Ciampa getting the win and Johnny just leaving. You know, the fact that wasn't very long ago, and the fact that Tommaso would not just be like, all right, I'm over it now. You know, I do appreciate that. I think that these two are inevitably still on something of a collision course, but it may take a little while to get there. It depends on what Ciampa does and how Johnny reacts.
That's right. Now, before the show began, I read that Dominik Guerrero was ranked number 8 in the rankings of the singles scene for a world title shot, right?
Yep.
But I'm introducing a concept in this company. If you are officially part of a tag team, you cannot be ranked in the ranking system. So if Dominik Guerrero is switching to tag teams full time, he will no longer be ranked number 8.
Okay.
So that means that Vacant currently has number 9 and number 10, since Powerhouse Will Hobbs will move up one slot automatically.
Man, that guy's just scooping up titles.
Vacant will soon have all the numbers.
Vacant's going to win it. When the whole roster's empty, Vacant will reign supreme.
But anyways, the point, though, is that number 9 and number 10 are now available. So this next match will be to determine who is number 9 and who is number 10. It is Tommaso Ciampa versus Ilya Dragunov.
That would be a hell of a match.
It would. This is going to be a 12-minute match between these two individuals. It is a hard-hitting affair between both of them. There's not necessarily a heel here. Dragunov is a face, and Tommaso is leaning tweener.
You never really established yet. It could go either way.
But it is stiff shots from Tommaso Ciampa. It is hard shots from Ilya, but Tommaso has the edge because he's bigger and stronger. Ilya starts making his comeback. He goes for his finisher, but Tommaso ducks it, then hits Project Ciampa for the 1-2-3.
Ciampa is not that Dragunov wouldn't benefit from a win here, but right now, given the context of what you've just established with Tommaso and Johnny, Tommaso would look kind of like an idiot if he lost this match. So it's I think this is definitely the right move. And honestly, Dragunov, you got time with him too. He's young too.
He is young too, and I can work with him. But at least for now, he is number 10 ranked, and Tommaso's number 9.
That's right. And you can rise up at any time. We've seen lots of people. Remember when Keith Lee was 10th ranked, winning the NWA championship? Pepperidge Farm remembers.
Yes. Yeah, Pepperidge Farm remembers. Now he's going to be main eventing. Anyways, we have a pre-tape interview with Renee Young and Roman Reigns.
Okay.
Of course, Roman Reigns in his suit jacket, his buttoned-up collar shirt, looking really professional, with the championship in the background. So Renee Young sits down and welcomes Roman Reigns and thanks him for the interview. Roman Reigns does his, little, yeah, thank you, and all that wonderful, predetermined bullshit interview stuff. So Renee starts with the first question. So you wrestled against one Maxwell Jacob Friedman on Atlantic Coast Pro Wrestling recently. And can you talk about that match? And Roman says, I was giving a little bit of a doubt to Maxwell, but I think he proved that he's a strong, powerful individual. He's a very shifty person. He is intelligent. He is certainly a bright future in this wrestling business. But he's a little bit too cocky and a little bit too arrogant, and that's why he couldn't get the win over me. Renee points out that Roman didn't win either. It was just a time limit draw, which Roman says, please, we all know what would have happened if that match had gone on for another 5 minutes. I would have won, Maxwell would have lost, and everyone would be silent because we know that they weren't good enough. But unfortunately, I only signed on for 30 minutes, and Arn Anderson doesn't have enough money to pay for another 5 minutes of Roman Reigns, and clearly That's the issue there. Maxwell, I'll see you soon enough. But I'm done with you. Because you've proven something to me. I gave you a chance to wrestle for my title. And you refused. Because you just... I don't get it. It's the youth. It's the ignorance. Renee, of course, is now going to switch topics. And then at the last show in December, while you were away wrestling Maxwell Jacob Friedman, Seth Rollins was kicked out of the bloodline by the Usos and Jacob Fatu. At this, Roman starts to scowl. And he says, while I don't appreciate what the Usos and Jacob Fatu did, they are right. Seth Rollins was a weakness. He didn't deserve to be part of the War Council, and now everything is solidified. The bloodline is here. And Seth Rollins, if you were smart, you would not try to come for this. And he taps the gold. And Renee Young asks the next question. Speaking of gold, later on you will be defending against Keith Lee. And Keith Lee is a man you've wrestled before. Do you have any comments about Keith Lee as a competitor? And Roman simply says, he is a man who has shattered limits. Keith Lee is a tough opponent. He's big, he's strong, he's deceptively fast, but he's not the tribal chief. He is not the head of the table. He is not the face of NWL. He is not me. And he will acknowledge me once and for all.
Well, this gets both points across. I don't think it had anything to do with money why he didn't get another 5 minutes. It's fortunate that Roman Reigns has to adhere to rules. How sad that Roman Reigns has to abide by a level of restrictions that he doesn't have over there on the West Coast.
Well, his implication is that Arn Anderson didn't have enough money to pay for another 5 minutes for Roman Reigns.
Yeah, I know. I knew what he meant. But as the owner of ACPW, I just wanted to make that clear. But I think that MJF is still not going to be super appreciative of that. And just because now, the fact that he calls MJF ignorant now, MJF is upset just from him mentioning his name. So it's going to be interesting to see. The invite is still extended there, so there's still a possibility that MJF might take exception, might not. We'll have to see what happens there, but still preparing for a tremendous main event with Keith Lee, but not necessarily underestimating him in the way that he does with other people. And I will say this too. Roman might say that everything's fine with the bloodline, but the fact that they went over his head regardless is gonna stick with a man like Roman Reigns, who has to have the power.
We shall see.
We shall see.
Next, we have a tag team match. It is the Motor City Machine Guns versus the Almighty Crew, Bobby Lashley, Apollo Crews, Eric Bischoff, and one Pat McAfee. Now, to be clear, Pat McAfee, he has a neck brace on, he has crutches, he has his leg in a cast, he has his arm in a cast, he's, dotting it up.
He's out of sorts.
He's out of sorts. This is a quick 8-minute match. The Motor City Machine Guns do their best, but Bobby Lashley is just too strong, Apollo Crews is too powerful, and they win.
I mean, you need to give a match like this to the Almighty Crew, especially considering how they finish things up. So getting them kind of back in their winning ways in quick fashion, in strong fashion, is necessary. And it's not like the Motor City Machine Guns at this point are going to be necessarily hurt too badly by that. I mean, even the size difference alone, it makes more sense for them to win.
Right. But we're not done yet with the Almighty Crew, because all four are in the ring, including Pat McAfee with all of his injuries. And Pat McAfee grabs the microphone and says, "Listen here, everybody. It has been several months since that life-changing match. I remember it. I remember the injuries caused to me by Kurt Angle, as you see on my legs and my neck and my arms. I have suffered irreversible, irredeemable, irresponsible injuries to me, the greatest leg of all legs. Everyone here should cry Just like when the Rams were losing to the Saints because of that stupid pass interference call. Oh my goodness,
Boo.
cry for me, LA, cry for me.
Boo! Boo!
And it is such a tragedy that I can no longer compete on doctor's orders. And as you see here on this paper, he weighs a paper, it is just unfortunate that this great tragedy has befallen me. But I will make sure that Kurt Angle pays for it because I'm going to sue.
Stephen P. News. Sorry. Sorry. Couldn't help it.
Take the free ad, Jim Cornette.
If only he was a sponsor. God, I love that podcast. I'm sorry. Continue. But I love it. I love it.
But in the meantime, while I'm busy with my lawyers and taking every single penny from bald Kurt Angle's money, I hand it off to Eric Bischoff and his crew. And Eric Bischoff grabs the microphone and says, listen here. It is clear to me that the only way we can make up for this little tragedy of Pat McAfee is to take everything away from Kurt Angle. And that includes the NWL World Heavyweight Championship. And we have an announcement. Bobby Lashley is entering the single scene. He is going to go for that championship because the Almighty One is the most powerful who will destroy any challenger. Bobby Lashley will be the world champion. And when he is the world champion, Kurt Angle will have to acknowledge all our greatness. But Apollo Crews is not done in the tag team division ranks because he has a new partner that I have secured for him. It is Powerhouse Will Hobbs.
Oh, son of a bitch.
Of course, Powerhouse Will Hobbs makes his entrance, and he stands next to Apollo Crews and Bobby Lashley. And Eric Bischoff says, with Powerhouse Will Hobbs joining our ranks, Apollo Crews and him will become tag champions soon enough. And then Eric Bischoff hands over the microphone to Bobby Lashley. And Bobby Lashley says, listen here, tonight's main event, Roman Reigns versus Keith Lee, I'm keeping my eye on it. But once that bell rings, whoever the champion is, they're about to get dominated by me, the Almighty.
Well, we are fully aware that Bobby Lashley will just tear ass up in the singles scene. If I'm the rest of the singles roster, I'm a little bit nervous because this man is a specimen.
Yes, he is. Now, Powerhouse Will Hobbs is ranked number 8. Because he's entering the tag team division with Apollo Crews, he will be dropping that number, but Bobby Lashley will be taking it.
Okay.
Basically, in this, it's an exchange, basically.
Okay. If Kurt Angle allows it, I'll allow it.
Well, you don't have any say.
You're right. But if Kurt Angle, I will accept it as a fan. If Kurt Angle has approved said switch.
Well, Kurt Angle could, but look at Bobby Lashley. Look at Kurt Angle, who's in shape.
Well, I haven't seen Kurt lately, but I would assume Bobby Lashley is in better shape than Kurt Angle.
And about 5 inches taller.
Yeah, I could be more now, honestly, because, you guys get older, you start shrinking a little bit.
A little bit. But the whole thing is that I like Powerhouse Will Hobbs, but I ran into a problem with him, and it's just that he's getting there, but he's not quite there yet. So I'm going to take him out of the single season, just like with Dominik Guerrero and Rex Steiner. I'm going to put him in the tag team division with Apollo Crews, who is a good, steady hand to work with.
Yeah, you're in no rush.
Right, and then when he's ready, he can go into the single scene. In the meantime, it's also about getting Bobby Lashley out of the tag team division, because Bobby Lashley, at this point, should be a singles guy.
I agree. And I think that the team of Crews and Lashley definitely was a good pairing. And it ran its course, and I think having that switch up of all right, we're just going to have to wrangle all them titles, and then looking at who you've got and being well, you've probably got the best chance of the world title, and you guys, stick to that. It's honestly sound strategy.
By the way, this is also my version of writing off Pat McAfee.
Sure. Definitely works. This was
right.
almost the Andy Kaufman promo.
After irreversible, irresponsible,
that's right.
irrepressible.
That's right. I like it. And
Anyways.
Pat would knock this out of the park, too. So.
Yep. Now we're going to go backstage for a backstage interaction. And it is the Usos who are preparing for the tag team title match, which is coming up next. And in walks Roman Reigns. Of course, Roman does the little bro hug with Jey Uso. Then he does it with Jimmy Uso. And they're all smiling, and Roman's looking at them. He says, well, boys, looks like the time has come. The tag team title match is coming up, and I expect both of you to do very well. Of course, Jimmy and Jey are all smiles and happy about it, and Roman goes, but, you know, I have a problem. And Jimmy's like, what's up, Us? What's the problem? And Roman's like, well, you see, that problem is you two. You see, I was planning on kicking Seth Rollins out. But the fact is that you guys did it for me. Because you took executive decision making. And I'm not saying that what you did was wrong. But you know that as the leader of the bloodline, I'm the one that makes the decisions, right? And Jay's like, whoa, Roman. We just did what you know that you wanted to do. And you were busy wrestling that stupid guy on the Atlantic coast, Maxwell. We can take care of business here. And Roman's like, I know you can. But the fact is that I'm still the head of the table. And I have to be the one that makes those decisions. Listen here, Jay and Jimmy. I love both of you like brothers. But don't mistake that love for stupidity. Are you calling me stupid because you think that I don't make the decisions around here? And Jimmy's like, no, we don't think that way at all. You are the tribal chief. You are the greatness. And Roman's like, good. Don't forget that. And make sure you keep those titles around your waist. Because those titles are more important to me than anything else. Those tag team titles, along with this, the World Heavyweight Championship in his arms, is what we need to provide for our families. And if we don't have them, well, then our families are going to have to starve. And if they starve, I'm an unhappy man. And Jacob Fatu walks in now. And there is my brother, Jacob Fatu. Of course, they all do the little thing.
Yep.
And Roman's like, it's so good to have you with us. And Jacob's like, it's been too long. Fact is that circumstances have prevented us from being together. But I'm happy to be with the bloodline, my Usos brothers. And Roman's like, you know what you have to do tonight, Jacob. And Jacob says very simply, kick Shinsuke Nakamura, take the international title. Good. Put it together, boys. And all four of them, they do the Shield fist palm.
Old Sethy Poo is going to have something to say about this, I feel. But it's going to take a little bit of time. But there's a lot to unpack here, because obviously the issues there between the Usos and Roman Reigns, and you really kind of understand Roman being like, I leave for 1 week and you go over the head of the table. And I don't appreciate that. And I understand why he wouldn't appreciate that, especially because of how successful Roman Reigns has been. The Usos have been not more successful since joining Roman, but they had their spotty moments. And with Jacob Fatu, who could potentially win a belt, and the Usos, who could potentially lose belts, the power could easily shift at the table that Roman Reigns is the head therein of.
It's very simple. If you lose those titles, you're meaningless.
Yeah.
So don't lose those titles.
Those titles are family. And if you don't have titles, we're not family. Simple as that.
Simple as that. So we move into that match. It's the triple threat NWL World Tag Team Championship match. The Usos versus the New Day, represented by Xavier Woods and Big E, versus the Bar, Sheamus and Cesaro.
Now, how's this going to work? Is it going to be 3 people in the ring at the same time, or is it going to be 2 people and then one team is out entirely and then they tag? How's that going to go?
I'm not doing that bullshit. 3 people in the ring, one
like
from
it.
each team.
If you're going to do,
only tag your partner.
If you're going to do a triple threat tag team match, that is how you do it.
One more thing, no weapons I'm not doing WWE's stupid thing of you magically add a third tag team, then you can do whatever you want.
Yeah. Or a third person, and then it's no disqualification. No, people get disqualified. I don't give a damn.
Exactly. It's just now there's 3 tag teams involved.
Yes.
This is going to be a longer match. I'm giving it 18 minutes.
Okay.
And, it's the typical tag team shenaniganery. The baby faces are the New Day, so they're the ones that kind of, get stuffed by the Usos and the Bar. Eventually it does become a kind of a beatdown on like Xavier until he gets the hot tag, the Big E, who runs like a train over everybody. The finish for this match is that Big E grabs Cesaro, hits the big ending on him, but he's not the legal man. Big E gets up to get bro kicked by Sheamus, and as this happens, the Usos come in, do the double super kick to Sheamus, and he's out. Xavier Woods tries to come in, and Jimmy Uso grabs Xavier Woods and hits the Samoan drop on him. And Jey Uso and Jimmy, they both go up to the top rope. They hit the frog splashes on the New Day. Double cover, 1, 2, 3. They keep the belts.
Wow. I actually did not think that was where that was headed. An interesting matchup to have the titles retained, but I think that there's clearly more going for this than I'm suspecting. So I'm a little surprised at the outcome, but I only imagine that there is a reason for it coming later.
We shall see then.
We shall see.
But here's the thing. The Usos have the tag team titles.
Yeah.
Roman Reigns has the world title. There's just one belt that's missing.
And will Jacob Fatu beat the white-hot Shinsuke Nakamura?
Well, we shall find out because that match is next.
Oh, snap.
Number 4, Shinsuke versus number 7, Jacob Fatu. We have Shinsuke and Jacob. They do the ring entrance. The bell rings, and Shinsuke doesn't even give Jacob Fatu a chance to breathe. He charges him and does his elbow strikes, his kicks, his knees to Jacob Fatu in the corner. The referee grabs Shinsuke and is trying to pull him off after the 1, 2, 3, 4 count, 5 count thing. Shinsuke is just giving Jacob Fatu all the business. He gives him the bad vibrations on the bottom of the rope. And he charges back to the other side, waiting for Jacob Fatu to get up so he can Kinshasa him. As Jacob Fatu gets up, Shinsuke goes for the Kinshasa. One Samoan spike to the throat, and Shinsuke is down. Jacob Fatu shakes off his head, shakes off his weariness, grabs Shinsuke Nakamura, a thunderous Samoan drop. Then he goes to the top rope, does the frog splash. Cover 1, 2, 3. A 2-minute match.
I like how you did it. I love how you established Jacob Fatu. There are too many people with frog splashes on this show.
Just a little bit.
That's the 3rd frog splash finish we've had tonight.
I know. I'm going a little bit too hard on the frog splashes, but it's kind of necessary.
You could also have Jacob Fatu do like a moonsault, because Rosie used to do the moonsault, which I always thought was ridiculous.
No. We're not doing the Rosie thing.
But still, the point is still set across.
The point has been set. All of the bloodline have all of the gold.
Who gonna stop them now?
Who gonna stop them now? Now then, the next matchup is an NWL rankings match. Kevin Owens, number 2, versus AJ Styles, number 3. The winner will be given the number 1 contendership and wrestle against either Roman Reigns or Keith Lee at the next show. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Right, so Kevin Owens makes his entrance, AJ makes his entrance, and before the match begins, AJ does the entrance part where he does the pose where he does his hands across.
Right.
And Kevin Owens immediately attacks AJ and stomps a mud hole into him. And the referee has to grab Kevin Owens, and then Kevin Owens drives AJ Styles out of the ring and starts brawling with AJ Styles outside the ring, and it is just a full-on beatdown by Kevin Owens. And the referee is trying to pull off Kevin Owens, and Kevin Owens does one shot to the referee, and down goes the ref. And Kevin Owens grabs AJ, does the powerbomb to the ring apron on AJ. Other referees come in to try and stop Kevin Owens, but it's too late. And then they separate him finally after a couple of minutes. Security grabs Kevin Owens and gets him out of the arena. Kurt Angle has come down now. He's hot and angry at Kevin Owens, and AJ Styles has to be stretchered out. It's a no contest. The match never happened. The bell never rang.
Well, that pesky vacant has lurched his way up real significantly in these rankings over the course of one show, courtesy of Kevin Owens. I don't necessarily hate this idea because I think AJ could use a facelift, and taking some time off to do it would be nice. Kevin Owens is the guy to do it, I think, especially the way that you've booked him, which has been an actual menacing guy where he'll do things like this and actually injure people. And so I think that this is all around a good piece of business.
Well, the whole thing is that AJ's heel run has run its course, and now he's the face turn.
Right. Which is what this sets up after he takes some time off to heal from the clear injury that he's gotten.
Of course, Kurt Angle is not going to give Kevin Owens the number one contendership now because the match that was supposed to happen is not going to happen.
And Kurt always lays down the law.
And Kurt always lays down the law. And sometimes even with the ankle lock.
That's right.
So we'll see what happens with Kevin Owens, but him and AJ, that's going to continue.
All right. More developing on that story.
More developing. Now we're going to move on to the co-main event. It is Becky Lynch, accompanied to the ring by Charlotte, versus Piper Niven.
Well, this is going to be better than the match they had. That's my statement here.
Well, I don't know. I was hopeful for that match, but again, it got the death slot.
It got the death slot, and it just went on for a longest time.
The good thing, though, is that because the concept of we just went through the triple threat tag team match, which was 18 minutes, the international title match was only 2.
Yep.
AJ and Kevin Owens never happened, so the crowd should have energy for it.
Yeah, you've definitely worked your way to this match better than they did, which is not hard to do, but you have done it quite well. So this means much more than that match ever could.
Right. And this is a match that goes 15 minutes. Piper is in control for a lot of it because of her size and power, and Becky does not get an edge at all. And even when Charlotte tries to get involved, Piper just kind of dismisses her, either with a punch or a kick or whatever. The finish for this match is that Piper is about to go for the finish on Becky Lynch. She does her big boy senton, as I call it. She grabs Becky Lynch and is going to go for the Piper driver, which is basically a Michinoku driver.
Yeah, the Michinoku driver.
The Michinoku driver. She hits the Piper driver on Becky Lynch and is going for the cover, and Charlotte Flair obviously has to get in and, stop it. So she starts stomping on Piper. It's a disqualification and all that.
Oh, Josh again is going to hate you.
Whatever. Piper Niven grabs Charlotte and does the Piper driver on her, and then Becky Lynch is in the corner. Piper is angry at both of them, so she grabs Becky, she grabs Charlotte, and about to hit a double move on both of them, when Raquel Gonzalez shows up and hits Piper in the back of the head. And Raquel grabs Piper, hits the choke slam on Piper. At this point, Becky and Charlotte have rolled out of the ring and they're running away, and Raquel Gonzalez is standing over Piper Niven.
Yeah, they're running like scalded dogs. Are Becky Lynch and Charlotte with their titles still intact because they got intentionally disqualified. And I say there because it belongs to all of them. And Raquel Gonzalez, that's a fraction of a surprise, but considering that Raquel Gonzalez versus Piper Niven seems to be a popular selection of match choice, it should be pretty good when they come to blows.
Well, they did come to blows. Piper won it cleanly, and Raquel clearly doesn't like that.
Right. And now come to additional blows.
Yep.
It's a disqualification win. It further adds that they're going to do whatever it takes to keep it on all 4 women. It's going to be interesting to see how the rest of this women's division moves forward with this 4 horsewomen dominance run that they got going on.
Right. It's just, I don't like having to do disqualification in a title match.
But sometimes it's got to be done. I mean, this is why I like the time limit draw, because it gives an out that doesn't necessarily involve disqualification, but that doesn't give you the heat that getting a disqualification because you're intentionally getting disqualified to save your title does.
Right.
So,
and speaking of, we have our main events: Roman Reigns versus Keith Lee. And if you remember, folks, back in, what was it? It was the show before Wrestle Festivals and before Heart Foundation Cup. It was in August, I believe. It was Keith Lee versus Roman Reigns until AJ Styles interfered and cost Keith Lee the title.
I remember that.
Keith Lee has dealt with AJ. Now it's just Keith Lee and Roman one-on-one for the title. And this is a slobber knocker of a match. I'm going to give it 20 minutes.
Okay.
Now, we're in the minute, 17 or so, and both of these guys are weary. They have driven each other with their best moves, and both of them at this point have kicked out of a finisher each.
Okay.
So Roman has kicked out of Keith Lee's powerbomb, and Keith Lee has kicked out of Roman Reigns' spear. And still nothing has happened. Still both of these guys can't put them away. Keith Lee is got the advantage right now. He grabs Roman Reigns, and he's going to go for the powerbomb. But before he can do it, Roman Reigns grabs him in the guillotine choke and is choking out Keith Lee. And it is taking everything from Keith Lee. He goes down to the mat, and he is spading fast. The referee grabs Keith Lee's right arm, 1 drop. Grabs his right arm again, a 2nd drop. Grabs his arm a 3rd time. It starts to drop, but Keith Lee springs to life a little bit. His arm grabs up. He grabs the referee by the shirt and tells him, "Don't end it." And it's clearly heard from the camera. Keith Lee crawls over, scratching, inching his way. His right arm finally gets the rope, and Roman has to break. And Roman finally does break, and it is tiring. Both men are heaving. Roman Reigns gets up one last time. He calls for his finish. Ooh, He goes for the spear, but as he does it, Keith Lee grabs Roman Reigns, lifts him into the air, and as Roman falls back down to the ground, Keith Lee does the power bomb. It's basically the pop-up power bomb.
Okay.
Which he took from Kevin Owens.
Yeah.
And Keith Lee grabs the cover. 1, 2. Bobby Lashley kicks Keith Lee in the back of the head.
Oh, no.
And the referee must call for the DQ.
Oh, no.
And Bobby Lashley is kicking the hell out of Keith Lee.
No.
He grabs him and puts him in the Hurt Lock. And the lock is devastating on Keith Lee, and Keith Lee passes out.
Oh,
Roman Reigns is getting to his feet, and as he does, Bobby Lashley with a spear to Roman Reigns. He grabs the NWL World Championship and stands among the 2 men as Eric Bischoff has come down and is clapping his way.
Well, wow. Y'all are really trying to piss off fans of the show. Man, that's it takes balls to have your 2 main events both end in a disqualification with an interference standing tall over the babyface. And I like the fact that you're making Bobby Lashley feel that serious, especially because he's attacking both Roman and Keith Lee, so it's not just specifically targeted against Keith Lee. It's all about, I'm now in this for the belt, and I'm not messing around and just waiting for things to happen. So I like the move. I just think it's so, how badly that would piss people off to have 2 consecutive disqualifications. Oh, man. Lordy, that would...
No. Think about the last 5 matches, okay? The Usos, the heels, win against the New Day in the Bar. I mean, the Bar are heels, but the Usos pin the New Day.
Yep.
Jacob Fatu wins in a 2-minute squash of Shinsuke.
Yep.
AJ Styles gets injured by Kevin Owens.
Damn.
Becky Lynch
DQ and DQ
because Charlotte cheated, and Roman Keith Lee wins by disqualification because Bobby Lashley.
Christ, to these poor ticket holders in Los Angeles. How upset are you that the Rams won the Super Bowl, bro? It's okay. It's like you're making Los Angeles suffer. Oh, man, your lack of response is very telling.
Again, I didn't want to book the show this way, but it ended up being how I booked it.
I know, I love it. I think it's hysterically funny. I think it's great. I mean, here you go. Here's a giant middle finger, Los Angeles. You just had your win, so...
Well, maybe if they didn't beat the 49ers, I would book a babyface to win.
Yeah, well, they beat Tampa too. So
screw you, LA.
So, yeah,
I'm happy for Matt Stafford, but screw you.
Yeah, well, it was evident in your booking that was the goal. And boy, did they leave pissed. But you know what?
Here's the thing. I hope they start a riot. I hope they get angry at the heels.
It's. I would hope they get angry at the heels too, instead of at you specifically. But it's a thumbs up. I mean, again, it's set up. This episode is really not meant to be the groundbreaking, this is where all the major things happen episode. This is the setup to the really major things happening. So if there's ever a show to have 5 consecutive heat spots, it would be this show. and so that's in the same way that I cut the same kinds of promos doing all the cringy bits. The cringy bits are needed for setup.
I mean, yeah.
And so the setup, this is what our setup shows are. You know, which is, there's nothing wrong with that. It's what's got to be done, and that only means that better stuff is coming in the future, but only if you're paying attention and you stick around to watch. A lot of good things happening for both shows, I think.
Right, and ultimately it will lead to better stuff because you have your big show in May.
Yep. Yeah, I've got a ways before I get to my stuff.
Exactly. But the only way you're going to listen to the big stuff and the good stuff and the little stuff is to like, share, and subscribe to Court Martial Podcast.
That's right. And you know how to do that. You hit that bell button, you switch it to all, so every time we post, you get to know about it. But until then, it is time to take our first commercial break. Skylar, great show as always, and we will see you next week for another round of debauchery. And I believe that 2 weeks from now is Revolution.
Revolution is March 6th.
Yeah, so we've got a couple weeks before, so we got about 3 weeks before that, but it's on our radar, folks, and we are going to watch it, and dear God, it can't possibly be as bad as last year's.
It can't possibly.
But we've got more to do and more to talk about before then, so stick around for next week, but until then, thank you very much, Skylar, the Bay Area Brawler. I am your Colonial Champion, Sean McCarty, and we will see you right after this.